Well, hey, boys and girls. I'm bummed to be missing working with fifth grade, but you have Mrs. Acosta, who's wonderful. And please make sure you help each other out. Coding isn't easy, and it's best if classmates can help each other when they get stuck. Okay, so your job today is finish lesson 3. Lesson 3 use the events blocks. That's sprites in action. It's when we use events blocks, such as when the A key is clicked, maybe a sprite grows. When the down arrow is clicked, another behavior is exhibited by a sprite. Well, after you finish lesson 3, you can begin lesson 4, which gets more and more advanced. And in lesson 4, it's called the mini project virtual pet. And you start with an exploration. So you finish lesson 3 first, and then you go to lesson 4. And lesson 4 starts with an exploration for virtual pet. I'll read the directions to you. And it says, whoa, check out this cool pet. Do this. Play with the virtual pet program. Read the code to see how it works. You can even make changes if you want. What happens when the pet touches the other sprites? What happens when you click the pet? Run the code and play with the pet. When you're done, click finish. Okay. Let's give us a little bit more space to work. Let's look at what we have in the code right now. When the run button is pressed, we'll have the background set to be like a rocky background. We have 3 different sprites, the dog, the food, and the tennis ball. We have the dog set to the normal 100 size. The dog food is set to the normal 100 size. The tennis ball is set to half, 50. Fine. Then we've got 2 different behaviors that this is new. We have the sprite begins, the dog food sprite begins being draggable, meaning when we click run, the dog food can be dragged. That's a behavior that you can create. We also have when run that the tennis ball is draggable. So for example, when I clicked run, the tennis ball can be dragged. The food can be dragged. The dog can't be dragged though, because it's not draggable. We have some events though. Events, when you click the event block, you have some events. One event was when the dog touches the dog food, 2 things will happen. The dog's size will grow by 10. The dog will play a sound. So let's find out what happens. When the dog touches the dog food. You hear that sound? It grew a little bit and it made a sound. When the dog touches the tennis ball, the dog will stop everything, and then the dog will begin spinning. So if it was already doing something, it's going to stop whatever it was doing, then it's going to start spinning, then it's going to make a sound. Also, when the dog is clicked, it's going to stop doing everything. So watch this. And then it's going to point north. Okay. And make that sound. So this is all of the things that happen in the code. We could add something if we wanted to. In fact, one thing that's pretty neat, you'll be able to see in the next module. So let's, I think that's good enough. So let's click finish. And let's continue to part 2 of lesson 4. And in lesson 2, part 2 of lesson 4, it says, now it's your turn to create your own virtual pet. Let's start by making sprites for your pet and its food. Do this. Click the Costumes tab to add new costumes to your project. That's optional, but this is pretty cool. This is the code. These are the costumes. When you click Costumes, you can create your own sprite. You can modify a sprite. Let's say you wanted to make the penguin guy a little bit different. You could select him. I always recommend that you duplicate so that if you make a mistake, it doesn't mess it up. And then maybe you want to give this penguin a smile. Cool. So optional, go to the Costumes tab and either make a new sprite completely or edit a sprite. So we're going to make 2 sprites with different costumes. We're going to choose different locations for your sprites. Then you're going to change the size of your sprites. Cool. So looks like I already did this. Let me start over. So you can make whatever background you want. Okay. Make 2 sprites. So the first, I'm going to make 2 sprites. The first one's going to be that penguin with the mouth. And the second sprite that I want to make will be a lobster. I got a penguin and a lobster. I'm going to move the location so they're not side by side, not right on top of each other. Then it says with different costumes, I did that. Choose different locations, I did that. And then change the size. Fine, I'll do that too. So I'm going to set the size of the penguin with the mouth. I'm going to make it a big penguin. I'm going to set the size of the lobster in sprites. He's going to be a small lobster. Snap it in. He's a small lobster. And that's all it asked me to do. I went to the costumes tab and I changed the penguin. I picked 2 sprites. I put them in 2 locations and I changed the size. That's all it asked me to do. So I did it. And you're going to proceed through lesson 4 all the way to the free play. There's a lot of amazing things you can do with lesson 4. Take your time. But again, finish lesson 3 first, then begin lesson 4. Boys and girls, do your very best.